Hello. Hello, we're grateful to be here at Channel 18, Public Access Television, Iowa City, on a beautiful but a somewhat warm day. Temperature said 91 degrees and the humidity's up there. But hey, in a way, we're grateful for this rays of summer. Today is September 16th, Wednesday, and we're moving into autumn equinox on Sunday, the 20th, which is it's half day and half night. 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. Okay, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. So it's halfway. So it's the other time of the year is called this vernal equinox. That's March 20th. So this is the autumnal equinox, part of the second harvest. This is the second harvest. There's three harvests. One is August 2nd, Lammas, the autumn equinox between now and October 1st, and then the third harvest, which is Halloween, the end of October, early November. So we're going to have some announcements here of the seasonal harvest. One is the Fiddler's Picnic, brought to us by the Iowa Friends of Old Time Music, which was started by our dear beloved, recently departed, dearly beloved Professor Harry Oster at the University of Iowa, the folklorist, and Art Rosenbaum, who is a magnificent banjo player and a folklorist as well. And in the Fiddler's Picnic here, you probably can't see it, but this painting, this drawing actually was an original watercolor painting by the co-founder Art Rosenbaum. And this will be out at the 4-H Fairgrounds, Johnson County, south of Iowa City, and Old US 218 Johnson County Fairgrounds on Sunday, September 20th from noon to 6. Be there or be square. Bring your joy, because this is the Autumn Equinox Harvest Fair. And come with your friends. There are two legendary beings, of course, Harry Oster's one and Art Rosenbaum, but also at the same time, at that time, who started this like 35 years ago, was another folk person whose name was Phil Nussbaum, who had a beautiful bluegrass folk show on KUNI. That's when KUNI radio was really good. In recent times, it's just pretty much like all the other FM stations. There's not much you can say that's really of any note. It's public, but when it's public and it says a private corporation and the public don't have access to the studios up there at KUNI or public television in Iowa, or not Iowa City, but down in Des Moines, they say a private corporation, they mean private. You try to go into their studios, good luck. That's not the Friends of Iowa Public Television. That's brought to you by corporatos and Terry Branstad and the Big Farm Boys and Chuck Grassley and all the big Iowa Farm Bureau and Charlie Rose and all the big corporations and the nightly business report. On public television, ask yourself, when have you ever heard of the nightly labor, the workers' report? When have they had an hour of news devoted to labor and working class people? It's a class war, people, and the public television is a class war on the poor and the working class. You have no voice. They have great documentaries. Let's give them credit for that. But the working class has no daily voice or no daily news in Iowa Public Television over in Des Moines. So when they ask for your money, maybe you want to withhold that until they put some working class news in there. Speak loud and proud. It's really good. So the Fiddler's Picnic is Sunday, September 20th, and everybody come on out and have a good time and a picnic. And there'll be a fee at the door. It's not that bad. It's $7. So come on out and have some old-time music. Also on the schedule of announcements, Mount Mercy University is having the Traveling Vietnam Wall Memorial, which is in Washington, D.C. Everybody knows the Memorial Wall. And they sign all the people who were killed in the Vietnam War their names. Well, there is a traveling memorial wall as well. And that wall will be at the University Green Space up on Mount Mercy Hill in Cedar Rapids. They're expecting 15 to 20,000 people to visit that wall. So if the Spirit moves you, and we want to show respect to our loved ones or our friends, touches all of our hearts, people. So this will be, the open house at the wall will be September 19th, Saturday coming up. And the wall itself, this thing will be from the 17th through the 21st. So between now and next Monday, get on up there and see this wall. It's right outside the Commons. You will find it. And take a moment of reflection on what this means. No more war, people. Okay, so then also connected with that, the Veterans for Peace are having a whistle-stop tour, a barnstorming tour of Iowa from two whistleblowers, Colleen Rowley and Ray McGovern. Colleen Rowley was with the FBI and Ray McGovern was with the CIA. Both have 51 years of service. And their barnstorming tour of Iowa is called The Truth Shall Make You Free, sponsored by the Veterans for Peace Iowa. And their schedule is something like, they'll be in Cedar Rapids. When will that be? The Veterans Memorial Building at Cedar Rapids, Friday, a week from Friday, September 25th, on 2nd Avenue Bridge there at 7 p.m. in Cedar Rapids, and then up to UNI on Saturday, September 26th, 10:30, UNI Cedar Falls, and then again in Waterloo at 3 o'clock that afternoon, and then St. Ambrose in Davenport, St. Ambrose University on Sunday, September 27th. And then on the full moon, lunar, blood red moon, super moon with a total lunar eclipse on Monday, 7:30, University of Iowa lecture series will be at the Engler Theater. Monday, September 28th, 7:30. It's free and open to the public, sponsored by the University of Iowa Center for Human Rights. That was Be There, Be Square. And then on the following Tuesday, September 29th at noon, the Iowa City Foreign Relations Council in Iowa City. It's downtown near the library. And then on that afternoon, they'll be at the Ames Public Library in Ames. And then Wednesday, the following day at 7 o'clock at Drake University in Des Moines. So they've got a real whistle-stop tour. And the first night, which hadn't been mentioned, was at University of Dubuque on Thursday night, 6 o'clock, September 24th. So that's just a week and a day from now. And these two are whistleblowers, and they spoke up. And let's go hear them. These are people for human rights. They're some of the leading lights of our time. Ray McGovern and Colleen Rowley. Welcome to Iowa. Sponsored by the University of Iowa and Veterans for Peace, and also Drake University and different colleges, UNI and St. Ambrose. Okay, so these are the announcements. So we have some serious announcements, peace in our hearts, plus we have the Fiddler's Picnic. All right. So we got to keep ourselves fresh with the news, beyond Huey Lewis for sure. So we're going to start here with this. We mentioned some peace journey that we went on in the last time we were here. This peace walk we did from Lake Superior down Lake Michigan over to Detroit. It was a 700-mile walk, two and a half months, planting peace poles, then getting on the Seeds of Peace bus, the Freedom bus, and going further up into the Northeast, up into New England for the New England Peace Pilgrimage down the Connecticut River for the month of August, and up to Labor Day down to the Atlantic Ocean in New London and Mystic, Connecticut. So this one is a peace journey that rolls west, all right? So this is a peace journey called Rolling West. It's a pilgrimage. And it's called Rolling Over Boulder, the stones on the ground Jesus walked. One time I woke up and I had this image of what were those stones like? What were those stones speaking on the ground that Jesus walked? What were they saying? So this is a piece kind of came out of that. Rolling over Boulder, stones on the ground Jesus walked. The way west, the jumping off place, was a little-known monastery in Outaways, Iowa. A little-known monastery in Outaways, Iowa. Way out there in Outaways, Iowa, way back in the early pioneer days, in the middle of the 19th century, right around 1850, when there were no settlers and no pioneers. Right? This is called Iowa. The Iowa Indians were around here. And a little-known monastery in Outaways, Iowa, called New Melleray, just outside of a future city called Dubuque, the Key City, New Melleray, Iowa. And this monastery was hand-hewn out of stone, carried a mile away in hobnailed boots by hooded mendicant monks. These were monks who carved out these hand-hewn stones and carried them a mile away by hand in the humid mughouse of the day. In 1849, Grubstake, Iowa, way before the pioneers and settlers. In 1849, Grubstake, Iowa, straight out from the side of a monastery in Ireland called Melleray. That's called Mount Melleray. It was a monastery on the side of a mountain in Ireland. They carved it out of the side of a mountain. And in 1849, they came to America and came straight out to the Mississippi River, and these were the first settlers in Iowa in 1849, and they started a monastery called New Melleray, based on the mountain Mount Melleray in Ireland. They were laboring. They labored for months and days and years. And these laboring feet hauled up the souls in America. So when they're carrying these stones, they're also carrying the souls of America in the future. These stones represented the souls as they were building the foundation, the edifice for this abbey, which was going to become a monastery, a Trappist Cistercian monastery, one of the most austere in all of Christendom. These laboring feet hauled up the souls in America. This was no little feat in the new land. Just after the U.S. Army had kicked out the Indians near Peosta. This was just after the United States Army Cavalry had kicked all the Indians out near Peosta, west of the Mississippi. So the rush on land could begin west of the Mississippi. This is a mark on New Melleray. This is a mark on New Melleray's soul that they haven't yet addressed. Their dark night of the soul. And they need to address this. What about the Indians that were here? Let's think about that and let's have some reflection and reconciliation. And this is their dark night of the soul. Now crossing the Craton and the driftless bioregion of northeast Iowa where the glaciers never really came, into the Black Earth, Iowa. So we're crossing over not only boulders here, we're crossing over the cratons of time and the crevasses, and also removing an entire culture and replacing them with another. And that culture was being replaced and thrown out of Europe, so we can't. Everybody's got a little of this blame to share, because we didn't come here. Many were forced out of Europe and were indentured servants, and most likely these monks were as well. They certainly were hobnailed indentured servants to the cross that they were carrying. It's interesting how that cross is, crossing the Craton. In Black Earth, Iowa, a sacred vision is seen in autumn. So now crossing the Craton in Driftless in Black Earth, Iowa, a sacred vision is seen in autumn at eventide up at Devil's Backbone State Park, which is just west of New Melleray, about 45 miles. And you look up at eventide at sunset, and there's a miracle. A white cross in the sky at night, witnessed by two people after sunset. oh my gosh, it's a white light cross in mid-sky, just staying there for minutes and minutes and a half an hour, maybe an entire hour just after sunset. In a fixity of Axio Mundi, signaling Axio Mundi, the cross, right? Axio Mundi, but also the craton and also the driftless, where the driftless meets the regular land right there at Devil's Backbone. So this is a cross currents of time, beyond space and time, but also out of, in the divine mind as well. A white light cross in the mid-sky. This has never been heard of or seen. In a fixity Axio Mundi of holiest earth. So this is a sacred sign out here. It's a sacred sign. It's not made up by the hands of man. This is made up by the hands of the divine. And this was fixing the Tzolk'in, which is the game board of the Mayan calendar, okay? Fixing the Tzolk'in game board in the new millennium. So this was the signaling of the end of the old and the beginning of the new. There at Highway 13 and Highway 20, which is the game board for the galactic harmonic, which is a 260 game board of the Tzolk'in, of the Mayan calendar. So they would say in Yaqui language, that's the Nawal and the tonal at the assemblage point. Well, this is the tonal, this is that which is the umbilicus of the Axio Mundi, which is the solar plexus which connects us up to the Hunab Ku, which is the center of the entire universe, which is called Hunab Ku. And that's our umbilical cord, which is Axio Mundi, Anima Mundi, which is the soul of the earth, the axis of the earth, and Nawal and tonal. So it's a tonal, setting a tone at the assemblage point for an intent to put our tent down in the golden eternity of now with goodwill for all human beings and peace on earth, which is all races, red, yellow, black, and white. So this is right here in the heartland. Isn't this interesting? Where the driftless starts up there at Devil's Backbone, this is where this cosmic sign occurs. And John Salter, a Native American Indian who was a professor here, and his son saw the same sign along the Mississippi River. And John Salter he taught urban politics and did urban organizing in Chicago in the 60s, right around the time of Dr. Martin Luther King. And he was one of the organizers in the inner city, was a block organizer. And he had pretty good cred, as you say, gravitas, credibility. He was experiencing the same thing. And this was the term used by Marcio Iliadi and some of the mythologists called Cosmos Indo-Pluktinos, which is the cosmic sign of the cosmos in our daily midst without us being aware of it. The breathing in and the breathing out of the Nawal and tonal here at the assemblage point at our solar plexus, but also setting the intent for unfolding a new tent of peace and harmony on this planet, here in the heartland. And this was called Cosmos Indo-Pluktinos, a crack in the cosmic game board, a crack in the cosmic egg, and that sign of wonder. This was a sign of wonder. Native American sign, okay, and all religions would understand that. And this was the Turtle Island New Earth Loom of Gaia 2013. 2013, okay? 2013. So we're now into the 2020. We're moving into the 2020 vision. Turtle Island New Earth Loom of Gaia. This is the loom of Mother Earth, and Turtle Island is the name of North America. And the New Earth is that fixity of Cosmos Indo-Pluktinos in the sky, that white light cross. It's called the New Earth, a loom of Gaia, on the loom of Gaia, New Earth, New Mind. And this is near the Mississippi River, just west of the Mississippi River, and that's really important. East is Freudian, west is Jungian. So this is mythic time coming into temporal time, in illo tempore, in this time. And this is New Earth, Loom of Gaia, through a new consciousness called the Mississippi River Revival. So that's 2020 vision. So that's year 2020, and we're going to have a Mississippi River Revival, where each little town along the Mississippi River, from Lake Itasca all the way down to New Orleans, is going to take their little portion, 20 miles or so of the river, and clean it up, have a cleanup, an earth cleanup of the entire Mississippi River by the year 2020, so we can have a new clear vision, 2020 vision. That's the vision 2020. So we'll have part of this new thing about climate change is global CPR, conservation, preservation, restoration. That's global CPR, conservation, preservation, restoration. That's a bioregional vision, better known as 2020 vision. And the Pope's coming over here to talk about that next week, so that's part of the autumnal equinox too. But you got to hold the Pope's feet to the fire on this one, this Francis, Pope Francis. He's about ready to declare one of the Franciscans, which is the order of St. Francis, Junipero Serra, cannot be declared a saint, who had all these missions on the west coast of America. What we're talking about, 1840 here, that's about that time, only it goes 100 years before that, more like 1650 to 1840, somewhere in there. And that was, they set up all these Franciscan forts along the California out there. They called them missions. But these weren't missions, they were like whole statehoods. These things were 100 miles long. And they put all the Native Americans, they captured them and brought their children in and then forced their mothers in, and then the fathers came in. They were stolen, they were raped, wiped out with disease, and hundreds of thousands were killed. They were sent into forced slave labor. They weren't allowed to leave. They were captured. They were killed. And these were done by Franciscans, and they were done at the direction of Junipero Serra, who ran the entire mission system, which is better known as concentration camps, just like in Nazi Germany. Well, the Native American, there was a genocide and a massacre of Native Americans in these concentration camps, better known as missions, Franciscan missions on the West Coast. And this Pope is coming here to America, and he's going to declare that this Junipero Serra as a saint. And it's like, people, please, that's like declaring Adolf Hitler a saint. Could you please contact your Catholic authorities, your popes, your bishops, and all the rest, and raise holy fucking hell with them, and tell them to stop this insanity of massacre and making the imprimatur of the massacre of these Native Americans on the West Coast through genocide and massacre in the numbers of millions, hundreds of thousands and millions, by the perpetrator, another dictator, another Hitler, Junipero Serra, and rewarding that with making this dude a saint. Please, that's more obscenity than anybody can stand. Okay, get in touch with these people and tell the Pope to rescind that decision, and also rescind the papal bull of May 2nd, 1493, which caused for the subjugation of all Native Americans in the New World, which basically is codified in the United States Supreme Court law of 1820. It's also codified in U.S. law, based on the Pope's papal bull of May 3rd, 1493, which called for the subjugation of all Native Americans. And that law is still on the books. Think of that. 1493, that's 522 years, that needs to go, okay? So you got some messages to give to this Pope, all right? He's a good dude, but keep his feet to the fire, holy fire. And set these captives free, these Native Americans, in their sacred memory. All right. It's part of our job, people, legitimate social memory here. Okay, so in the middle of this vision that we have over northeast Iowa at Devil's Backbone, and this white light in the shape of a cross in mid-sky after sunset in autumn. And this is, so we're having this new vision, the 2020 vision of Mississippi River revival, conservation, preservation, restoration, to clean up the river for a new clear mind, clear our minds. So this is through the Mississippi River revival. It also is a clearing of our cultural heritage as well as our biocentric heritage, both our cultural heritage, cultural and biodiversity, okay? So our biocultural heritage, biodiversity heritage, and our cultural heritage, both. So this is bio-entrainment of the global brain in a planetary CPR, a planetary cleanup of a campaign for the Earth with us as the planetary cleanup crew of conservation, preservation, and restoration. Excuse me, restoration. It will also have restoration of our neural circuitry. Our brains, our global brains, will light up with new mind, okay? Bright minds, sparkling minds, flashing dendrites. What we're doing here is we're basically just sharpening up our axons. Those are axons or dendrites so that the fire can fly across the synapse and we can brighten up and have flashing minds and beautiful new radiance of our thinking and our energy. Our energy field will amplify as well. So this is a amplification, a sensory amplification of our neurocircuitry in a re-inhabitory time for a new global brain. It's 2020 bioregional vision. It's quite beautiful, and it's all loaded with the ecosystem consciousness and language of that we can understand. We put our hands on useful language, which is watershed, air, land, air, and water, all right? The new law, land, air, and water, basically our ecosystem in a watershed. It is 2020 bioregional vision, and the 1320 prime mover double helix diamond vortex. So you got this diamond vortex, and you overlay a diamond over another, you get a diamond in the middle. The double diamond vortex sutra. And that's Highway 13 and 20 coming together there at Devil's Backbone. So this is a 1320 prime mover double helix diamond vertex. A vertex, all right? Vertex is up. Vortex this way, vertex this way. Both spinning counter circle and circular at the same time. And in the middle is this diamond vortex, double diamond vortex helix sutra. And that's kind of a planetary cosmic movement, divine design. And it's right in the heartland. It's above us and below us and all around us, better known as a geodesic dome. And this is, we'll call this the 1320 prime mover double helix diamond vertex Dreamtime Driver Wheel Sutra. The Driver Wheel Sutra is right there in that, right in the center there where that cross is, right? The white light in the sky. That's a Driver Wheel Sutra, spinning 144,000 rainbow dreamer wheels, initiatically ending the 9 hells. This is the beginning of the beginner's mind, initiatically ending the 9 hells since the Inquisition and the conquest of Columbus. All right, since 1492 we talked about the Pope, the Papal Bull of May 3rd, 1493, 500 years ago, which began the conquest, which was began the missions and the colonization and the missions on the West Coast, which colonized and enslaved and put Indians in enslavement camps called concentration camps, called missions, now called reservations. That was the beginning of the 9 hells. Well, these dreamer wheels are initiatically ending the 9 hells and activating the beginning of the 13 heavens. We clean this up We cleaned the river up. We cleaned our minds up. We call for the cessation of the papal bull of May 3rd, 1493. And the Catholic Church needs to not apologize to the Indians. They need to go through their own healing process, because the abuser needs to go through a healing process too. You talk about traumatic stress syndrome when the veterans come home. They're the abusers and they have been abused. But that's PTSD, psychological traumatic stress syndrome. Well, the people who did the torturing, right? They did the torture, the Indians killed them, and whoever else. Death squads in Central America and anyone in between those last 500 years. That's some pretty deep trauma that the Catholic Church needs to have its own PTSD, psychological traumatic stress syndrome of healing. There is going to have to be a lot of reconciliation on the part of the perpetrator. The abuser needs to heal too. And so when they say, we're sorry, I say, no, you need to heal, man. You need to talk about your own stress syndrome and how you're going to go through the dark night of the soul, and you need to heal. As a perpetrator and as an abuser, you need to be healed, go through your healing process too. So the Catholic Church needs to go through a 20-year healing process as well. And they do that together with the Native Americans. That's the only way we're going to have true reconciliation. Forgiveness of one another begins with the healing. But that means the abuser has to recognize they need to heal too. All right, so there's a great beginning of healing in this cessation of suffering. And that out and through that begins the beginning of the 13 heavens, all right? That's quite beautiful. So that's the 13 heavens. And so the dreamer wheel is initiatically ending the 9 hells and activating the beginning of the 13 heavens. These are now the holy modal bounders, so people are getting more joy and enthusiasm and bounding and leaping and having faith and reconciliation as loved beings of the divine. Everyone's part of that divine child. So they transform into what's called the holy modal bounders. And they start bounding over these land of these stones that Jesus walked on, even after. This is the new millennium. These now holy modal bounders have trekked further west, starting at New Mellery. Isn't this beautiful? Starting at New Mellery with the mendicant monks with their hobnail boots, hand hewing the stone and carrying these 50, 100-pound thing through the mug house for 1.5 miles to lay the foundations for this New Mellery. Right here at the heart of the heartland, from the side of a mountain in Ireland. This direct from the French Revolution. So these holy modal bounders are now trekking further west in the runic futhark of the covenant pilgrimage, turning Dorothy's cognitive Kansas. Remember Dorothy? Turning Dorothy's cognitive Kansas into cosmic Kanza. Into cosmic Kanza, they traversed the Arc Kanza into the high, shining mountains, the high holy mountains, the shining mountains as they went west, down 40 Highway, passing the 100th meridian, a sacred curve in time. This Arc of Kanza, the Arkanza River, isn't that beautiful? In the bend, Arkanza bend, around the bend did we go, turning obstinate obstacles of nuclear weapons and missile silos into the golden halos of the yellow brick road. Aho! Crossing the 100th meridian, we also crossed the 100th monkey meridian and achieved and realized critical mass for a new way of thinking, transformative. Went from the Dolorosa, the sorrowful path of the Via Dolorosa of cognitive Kansas and the 9 hells, into the Via Transformativa of the 100th meridian and the 100th monkey critical mass into the Via Gloriosa of the yellow brick road of the dawning of the beginning of the 13 heavens. Crossing the 100th monkey meridian, Merlin in hand, with bodhicitta motivation. Bodhicitta motivation is the cessation of suffering of all sentient beings. This is for the cessation of suffering of all sentient beings. That's two-legged, four-legged, winged ones, finned ones, animate, inanimate, biota, all biota, microcosm, macrocosm, mesocosm, all of life, above, below, before, behind, beside, and all around this beautiful Aquaterra beloved water planet. This is called crossing the 100th monkey meridian in our own being with bodhicitta motivation and 20/20 bioregional vision. They went crossing over Boulder. Yep, down the yellow brick road, they went crossing over Boulder. The Tin Man, and Oz never gave nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. And Oz never gave nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. And Oz never gave nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. They went crossing and rolling over Boulder, and they went crossing and rolling over the Great Divide, the Continental Divide. They went crossing and rolling over the Colorado Plateau and the Axio Mundi with the Tibetan Plateau and Mount Kailas and Mount Meru. They went crossing and rolling over Boulder and the Colorado Plateau and the Tibetan Plateau and the Axio Mundi. On to the Great Basin they did roll. On to the Great Basin these holy molar bounders did roll, rolling over the Great Basin and into the Amargosa Desert. These holy molar bounders did roll with bodhicitta motivation and flower power in this hour of the eternal now, and into the new land, Nehue Segovia, into the new land of Nehue Segovia. They did roll into the land of the Nehue Segovia singing, Shundahai, Shundahai, Shundahai. Welcome home into the new land of the shining mountains, of the new earth, the new millennium, and the spinning 144,000 rainbow dreamer wheels of the beginning of the 13 heavens, right here in the heart of the heartland of the Zulkin. The game board is now lit up for 20/20 vision and conservation, preservation, and restoration, and a Mississippi River revival of all the rivers and the states that drain the North American continent through the Mississippi River, Turtle Island, and the loom of Gaia, the entire planet, Mother Earth, Aquaterra, water planet. Aho. So this is the stones on the ground Jesus walked. Going to be like if you had vision, like you could really see. Jesus would be walking in the new world. The new world is the New Jerusalem, my friends. The stones that Jesus walked are literally the stones under your feet. Jesus, dear ones, is just us. Let's breathe that in. Jesus is just us. Let's breathe it in, dear friend. Jesus is just us. Just us is Jesus. That's pretty sweet medicine. We can breathe this in. All right, so this is dedicated rolling west out of the heart of the heartland here in the season preceding the precessional equinox of the full moon, of the supermoon called the blood moon, and a total lunar eclipse in the second harvest. So this is, we're in 3 harvests here. This is a celebration, all right? So that's the beginning of that. And what we're going to say here is, Well, you don't have to ask for permission. Think like we've been down the Yellow Brick Road, but at the beginning of the Yellow Brick Road, you're in Cognitive, Kansas. In order to go to Cosmic Oz, you have to move from the left brain to the right brain. That's called crossing the Rainbow Bridge, the Corpora Callosum. So our brains are like labyrinths and mazes. They're convoluted, and there's a sacred reason for that divine design. And that divine design is taking us from left brain to right brain. So here you are going down the Yellow Brick Road, and so then you might come along Peter Pan, or someone puer aeternus, puella aeternus, summer. And summer breeze, let us breathe that in, and let us love the summer, eternal summer in our own lives. Take a sledgehammer to the statue that they have erected of you. Do not ask for permission. Take a sledgehammer to the statue that they have erected of you, and fashioned by their own fancies of how you should look, who you should be. Do not ask for permission. Do not ask for permission of these people saying how you should look and who you should be. Do not ask for permission. Smash it into 1,000 shoulds. Smash it into 1,000 shoulds. You sweep into the dustpan, into the wastebasket of the misery of that history. Then stand naked in front of your own mirror. Then stand naked in front of your own mirror. And dress in your softest words. And dress in your softest words of wisdom, whispering from within. Then stand naked in front of your own mirror, and dress in your softest words of wisdom, whispering from within. Oh. So in that notion, we're going to travel over here to a place called Notre Dame, and we're going to smash that mirror as well. We're not going to ask for permission. We're going to smash that mirror. Over in Notre Dame, there's a Hall of Fame. Well, invisibly, that most people don't know about, there's a wall of shame. Not to disparage Notre Dame, there's some beautiful things at Notre Dame. One of the great people, Father Hesburgh, Father Robert Pelton, who did so much work on the help for beatification of Archbishop Romero, and the people of El Salvador and human rights there. That all came out of and supported by Notre Dame, the Helen Kellogg Foundation and the Joan Kroc Foundation, these human rights foundations, Kellogg Foundation and the Kroc Foundation of Human Rights in Notre Dame. So, hey, this is only to say some things about the wealthy football supporters of the jock shop that worship jocks more than little people and poor people. And Notre Dame, you got a lot of shame on that one, but that could be University of Iowa, so this is generic, just call it Notre Dame, but it could be the Golden Hawkeyes as well. Right, jocks? Touchdown Jesus can't save the sin of South Bend. There's glory, there's fame, there's glamour underneath Touchdown Jesus. You can hear the crowds roar and clap their walrus clap. In the real world, just a bunch of crap across the inner city ghettos and inner city gangbangers of South Bend. Lay a story of deep, deep chagrin. Lay a story of deep, deep chagrin out at the South Bend airport. My dear friend Kyle, who was crippled and weighed 99 pounds, and they couldn't even find a wheelchair at the airport to help him get around. The poor man had to crawl. That's your brother, that's your father, that's your husband. Put that in your own context, in your own life. How would you like to see your brother, your father, your husband, someone who's crippled have to crawl going through the airport doors because they don't have a wheelchair for him? That's the shame of Notre Dame, South Bend, or any other place that's doing that for the poor. Kyle is 5'6" and weighs 99 pounds, dripping wet. Okay? My dear friend Kyle did crawl through the long halls, crippled and all. This is real courage not found in Notre Dame. This is real courage not found in Notre Dame, the football halls and walls. They could care less. Just a deafening silence. They could care less. Just a deafening silence. Kyle was traveling with great courage as he crawled along the walls of the South Bend Airport. This great peace march courage. Kyle was on the great peace march for global nuclear disarmament, and he was a great peace walker. And some years later, he found they could hardly walk. Kyle lives in a wheelchair for the most, but let's get Kyle out of that wheelchair, people. And after 20 years spent mostly full-time in bed, no one at Notre Dame could bother. Kyle was not a physically fit freak jock. Kyle was not a physically fit freak jock. No one at Notre Dame could bother. They were putting on a freak show for the Lollapalooza crowd and all the walruses who had all the big bucks, Big Daddy bucks, right? They were putting on a freak show for all the fans who go arf arf like walruses, and it had Big Daddy warbucks. And over across at the South Bend Airport, little 99-pound Kyle, who was crippled, was crawling inside the circus cage called the South Bend Airport. There was no wheelchair in sight, and Kyle needed a wheelchair. Kyle crawled through the fascist halls to the right of right and crawled up the second ladder of stairs. All right, so he crawled up the second ladder of stairs, right? And not only stairs like the stairs you go up, but all the people staring at him. He was crawling, and all the people, he had to go through that embarrassment and mortification of all these stairs. To the top floor, Kyle looked up, and he got up to the top floor, and Kyle looked up, and standing there in the glare was, guess what? Of the glass-encased sun. So you get up second floor at the South Bend Airport. It's a pretty modern airport. It's got this beautiful glass, 20 feet high, and the lights just pouring in. It's quite beautiful, actually, design-wise and architecturally. So Kyle climbs up to the top floor, and he looks up, and standing there in the glare of the glass-encased sun, staring at him, was a whole phalanx of brown-shirted, not-so-friendly fascists called Der Vaterland Home Security. Der Vaterland Homeland Security. Well, my friends, why don't we just send all those overpaid geeks, send them all over to the stadium over there where Touchdown Jesus lives over there at Notre Dame. Let them go over there and get paid real well to just sit on their hands and do nothing, instead of putting these poor little people like that through the screws. Yeah, that's misplaced priority, folks. We got to rethink our priorities here. Okay. So there was a whole phalanx of brown-shirted, not-so-friendly fascists called Der Vaterland Homeland Security. Kyle couldn't walk. He crawled. Kyle couldn't walk. He crawled. He scrimped and scried and scrawled along the walls. He scrimped and he scribed. You're talking real faith here, brother. You're talking real soul here. You're talking real truth here. This is for all the little people. So Kyle's like 5'2", 99 pounds. He's really poor, super poor. He can't afford the stuff even students can afford more than this fella. He lives in HUD housing, the houses of the holy, the houses of the poor. He understands what it feels like, the crawling thing called poverty crawling all over that. All right, see, his choices are limited. Not only that, he can hardly walk. He's crawling. He's physically disabled, but economically so. So put your soul into Kyle. He's putting his soul into you right now. So walk with him here for a moment. He scrimped and scried and crawled along and scrawled along the walls. The goose-stepping Gestapo goons of Der Vaterland Homeland Security were putting Kyle through the screws. Like this is your modern day dungeon torture down there in the basement of the castle. They're putting him through the screws, you know, on the rack. This is your modern day screws. And these screws, these goons, these thugs were grinning away. I looked at them. You had to see the grins on these Homeland Security's faces. Not to say Cedar Rapids and all these other airports, way better than South Bend people. So like Homeland Security, most places is probably okay. But this South Bend is a sin from hell. All right? And you could see the grins on their faces. Kyle went through this and they were putting him through the screws. And they were putting Kyle through the screws. They were all well-paid screws for the system of Homeland Security. Time to revision Homeland Security and, you know, lighten it up a whole shitload. We don't need them in our minds. We don't need them having us on our knees begging to do what was part of our First Amendment, freedom of assembly, freedom of movement, freedom of speech. We need to reassert our freedom of speech, our freedom of movement, our freedom of assembly, our freedom of the press, our freedom of assembly, and a freedom to move. It's called the Bill of Rights, people. And Kyle is being put through the screws of the dark night of the Bill of Rights at the South Bend International Airport by Der Vaterland Homeland Security, paid by your taxpayer dollars. Get them off your backs. Their grins showed how much they enjoyed putting Kyle through the paces. Every painful crawl, every nuanced painful crawl. He had to go through that ignominious public embarrassment. That could be you. If they did it to Kyle, they can do it to you. Every painful crawl, they showed plainly in the daylight glare the grimace on Kyle's face. But finally, we made it past that. Finally, we made it past that. And through the grimoire gremlins of that long, deep, grim wire and gyre of the South Bend Airport, the insecurity check, hell, even the baggage and carry-on were treated more gently, with more respect than Kyle. What was the telltale sign? Was these Gestapo goons on their face where they wore such grins, so you know Touchdown Jesus can pander to the bastard, filthy rich hooligan thongs in the over at the Notre Dame gold-helmeted, gold-plated stadium in the deafening silence of real care for their fellow man. And inside the gated Coliseum spectacle arena, showing to the whole wide world all that glitters is not gold. Underneath the dome of Notre Dame lives the huge high walls of shame. Their reeking stenches reaching to the heavens. Little Kyle, all 99 pounds, stands noble and tall above it all. Dear friend, have you cared for the least of these? Dear friend, have you cared for the least of these? Well, this is generic, but this is again titled "Touchdown Jesus Can't Save the Sin of South Bend." So it's okay to be a fan and enjoy. Everybody has a right to have a good time. We all need that. But when you do, think of your brother and sister. Think of the least of these. And so we're gonna have something for our heart here. And in time in life, we run across friends who are going through a tough time. My friend Ann is in the hospital. This dedicated Ann. We'll cover this more next time, but right now we're going to get a touch of the soul. Ann is doing a divine painting. So Ann is in Cedar Rapids Hospital. She was in the University Hospital, but here's for Ann. Grim. That's the picture that appears at first when we hear the latest outlook on our beloved friend Ann. She's going to need someone with her for the next 2 years to stand at her side every day. When we hear the latest outlook on our beloved friend Anne talked many times of Anam Cara. It's believed the soul radiates all about the physical body and aura. It's believed that the soul radiates all about the physical body and aura. When you connect with another person and become completely open and trusting with that person, your two souls begin to flow together. When you connect with another person and become completely open and trusting with that person, your two souls begin to come together. They flow together. And should such a deep bond be formed, it is said that you have found your Anam Cara, your soul friend, your Anam Cara. In order to appreciate this relationship, you must first recognize your own inner beauty and your own inner light. That's not so easy to do sometimes, dear friend. That's not so easy. But forming an Anam Cara friendship would help you to awaken your awareness of your own nature and experience the joys of others. You are joined in an ancient and eternal union with humanity that cuts across all barriers of time, space, and mind, of race, yellow, black, red, and white, of time, convention, philosophy, and definition. When you are blessed with an Anam Cara, a soul friend, the Irish believe, you have arrived at that most sacred place, home. Love is the threshold where the divine and human flow into one another. Love is the most real and creative form of human presence. This love includes a depth of awareness and reverence for presence. Your loved ones in the hospital or wherever, if they're missing, wherever they're at. For presence, awareness which brings integration and healing is one of the greatest gifts of this friendship. As a result, you look, see, and understand differently. You refine your sensibility and transform your way of being in the world. The Anam Cara is a loved one who awakens your life in order to free the sacred light and life possibilities within you. With this Anam Cara, Anne in the hospital is doing a divine painting between heaven and earth, a sacred marriage of heaven and earth, awakening the sacred life possibilities within each one of us. Her beloved peace circle of friends, her beloved family, her beloved church community, and her beloved circle of all humanity. Dear friend, you have a friend in your life. May you find your Anam Cara, your soul friend, and may it be this very day. God bless you all. Thank you. We had a good one today. Peace.